Let's call the Lee County Charter Review Commission meeting of Tuesday, January 16, 2024 to order. Let's all stand for the pledge, and then we'll get going. Kevin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, sir. All right, we're going to start with public comment. I've got 5 cards. If anybody wants to speak and hasn't filled out a card, there's a whole bunch up here by the door. So, I don't know if we have a choice.
I do.
They're all on tablet, like where that was.
Okay, fine. In no particular order. In no particular order. Thank you. Mayor John Gunter.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to meet with you and talk about one of the items on your agenda with the voluntary annexation. As you recall, back several months ago, I did come before this particular body and expressed a concern with the voluntary annexation as far as the proposal that the charter was considering. As we know, the Florida statute outlines a criteria to utilize for voluntary annexation. And I also expressed to you back several months ago when I was here that our city recognizes some of the complexities with the county and with the city when it comes to voluntary annexation. And as a result of that, I told you when I was here last that the city had engaged in a mutual aid and an automatic aid with the Matlacha Fire District, and also outlined an agreement. I did bring those agreements with me today. I'd be more than happy to leave that with the chair. And also, I'm happy to report we did the same thing with the North Fort Myers Fire District as well. And as a city, we want to be good neighbors. We understand some of the challenges, but we do feel there is a process in place now that does work and doesn't need to be changed. And we're trying to be that example. And that's why we've reached out to these entities in order to have a mutual aid agreement. We also are hopeful that we can come to an agreement with the Pine Island, with Chippewa, the Greater Pine Island Water Association, because we know there are some challenges with them as well. So I'm here today just to reiterate the desire to keep the process the way it is now, not to make any changes. We know by the example that we're trying to show that the process can work if you reach out and have a mutual aid agreement with these entities. So that's why I'm here today, just to express, to reiterate what I said before. Our council as a body, and I know you've been provided a resolution that we oppose any changes, and I'm here tonight just to reiterate that, and I want to appreciate the time that you've given here tonight to reiterate my position and the City of Cape Coral's position. So, thank you.
Next, Ryan Lang.
Good evening. I'm Ryan Lamb, the Fire Chief and Emergency Management Director for the City of Cape Coral. Just to echo some of the things that Mayor Gunter had mentioned, the city's opposed to changing this process. We believe through cooperation, collaboration, working with our professionals, the fellow chiefs at the North Fort Myers Fire Rescue Control District and the Pine Island Matlacha Fire Control District, we're able to come to a successful agreement not only for annexation of properties currently and in the future, but also enter into an automatic aid agreement for the properties that border the city and those independent districts. It's important for us that, as we've talked about with each of those chiefs, when somebody's having an emergency, nobody really cares what patch or sticker shows up on the truck. They want to have their emergency handled. And so being able to move past that practice and being guided by some of those distinct lines is going to result in the best outcome for our residents here locally. So we're grateful to see that process come forward. We also, in that same vein, also want to make sure that we recognize that developers and other folks that come into our area have unique things that the city of Cape Coral can offer versus unincorporated parts of Lee County, and want to make sure that we represent those private property owners and what they desire to do with their property. Thank you.
Turn you on. Thank you, sir. Next, Mike, and I'm not pronouncing it.
Good evening. I'm Mike Malakakis, General Manager of the Greater Pine Island Water Association. I do have some visuals I'd like to share with you tonight. So we're not opposed to voluntary annexation. We just like to modify the new amendment with the term county utility franchise, and that's what we are. And many members on the committee and many people, the public at large, have said that there's no need for this additional language, and I beg to differ. And I'm going to try and illustrate that here. So here you see an aerial map from 1967. The Greater Pine Island Water Association, or GIPWA as we call it, was incorporated in 1965. In this map, you're just seeing our franchise area that was given to us by Lee County, and then you're seeing unincorporated Lee County because the city of Cape Coral hadn't incorporated yet. Fast forward to 1970, we can see the city of Cape Coral's boundary in yellow, and then we can see our franchise area. This area here was left unincorporated Lee County, and then in the future, our franchise was changed to go into that area as it was unserved. And so for many years, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, we had a great relationship with the city. When the city brought Mariner High School, they needed us to provide it with water, and we did. And then when they were ready to take it back over, they did. Unit 58, which is an area in there, they weren't ready to serve it water back in the 90s and the 80s. We served it water until they were ready. So everything was good. It's in the 2000s when things started to change. So what you can see here is the city of Cape Coral, the city boundary in yellow, our franchise area in blue, and you can see the lines are now kind of like they're going over each other. And so there are areas where the city annexed into the franchise area. And so when that happened, we didn't really know legally, we didn't understand legally, because it's not defined anywhere, what the recourse was. And so how this affected us is this area here is the location of the Sandoval community. So Bonita Bay Group, back in the early 2000s, wanted to create a development there, and it was in our franchise area, and they came to us, and we talked with them, and they told us how many units is like in the 2000s. And so what we did is we did a study, and we started improving our utility network. And what we did is we built a booster pump station right here. Well, it takes a while to design, it takes a while to permit, it takes a while to construct, and by the time it was constructed, the city had annexed those portions, and so $2.1 million was invested that we never got to realize. Chair, I don't know if I'm over on time. 2 minutes? Okay, thank you. So there we are, directly affected. And what was our recourse? We didn't know. We went into a lawsuit. Nothing really came of that. Later on, a few years later, Walmart came. So same thing. It was our franchise area. We were talking to Walmart. And then they got annexed into a city, and then this time, again, there was a legal action. The outcome of that legal action was that we were actually allowed to keep them as customers until our legal franchise, till the end of the term of our legal franchise. So at least we got a better understanding of our legal rights. But nothing exists in this matter. And that's why we're here. So we just like to make this a little bit better process. bring the stakeholders to the table, allow us to have input up front, legitimate input, and that's it. We're not opposing voluntary annexation. We just want a seat at the table. So that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. John McLean.
Good evening. For the record, my name is John McLean, and I am the mayor of the village of Estero. I come before you this evening with the full support of the village council, and I want to remind, I gave a copy of amendment or a resolution that we had, 2023-26 in Estero, dated October 10th, where the entire council was recommending that we have you not move forward with any changes to the voluntary annexation that's in the charter today. You know, as an elected official, I'm reminded by my constituents often that I serve to fulfill the needs and the will of the people that elected me. I was not elected to place firewalls and roadblocks to obstruct the quality of life that our citizens expect from us. I hear from time to time that the quality of life offered here in Southwest Florida is the reason that many of the folks have moved down here, and more are coming down daily, because they see this as a wonderful place where they have an opportunity to improve the quality of their life, and they expect our officials, including me, our commissioners and all elected folks, to take positive and proactive actions that's going to continue to improve the quality of life that they expect. I come before you this evening asking you to not take any action to move this initiative forward. I do believe that it's incumbent upon all elected officials to work for the common good of our citizens. Don't create roadblocks where they are not needed. We represent the collective needs and interests of Lee County, that's all officials, and all our citizens will prosper by having our elected officials work together in open dialogue that facilitate creative solutions to better serve the needs of our citizens. Don't vote to encumber a system that works. Thank you for your time.
Bill Deal. Dial.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity to appear here. Name is Bill Diley, and I'm a member of the Board of Directors of the Pine Island Water Association. Pine Island Water Association works under a franchise granted by the county. We're not-for-profit, and we have a specific geographical area that we furnish water to. All the members of the board are elected by the membership of the Pine Island Water Association. All our members are water customers, and all our water customers are members. I like the idea of having dialogue and interlocal agreements. However, many times things are taken outside of that dialogue. And lots of times, being small, we're in an unequal bargaining position. We think the county's proposal, or the Board of Directors' proposal, to institute a structure over the process is worthwhile. And we're looking not to be a roadblock to annexation, but to make sure that our membership is made whole when we lose an asset, be it pipes in the ground, a pumping station, or a more robust water treatment plant to provide for anticipated future use, and then find it's not there because it's taken away from us. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Those are all the cards I have. So is there anybody else in the audience that wishes to speak tonight? No? Okay. Not seeing anyone. We're going to pull it back to the board for comments and discussion. Noel, you're first.
First of all, just so everybody has the right conception, we're not here to make any changes in the annexation policy. We're only here to recommend to either the county commissioners, or if we get enough votes, to go straight to ballot. We're here to, it doesn't matter if we're for it or against it. What we're here for is to see if we can get it on the ballot so that the voters of the county will actually make the decision as to whether there are any changes in the annexation policy. We're not here to make changes in the annexation policy. And the second thing is, I'd like to make a motion of the evidence that we just heard just now. I'd like to make a motion that we revise the draft that we have to include or county utility franchise in the language of the draft.
Where do you want that included, Joe?
Just right where the copy that we were presented, it's already in there in red, so it's already included in the proper place.
I'll second that for purposes of discussion.
So we have a motion, we have a second. Let's have a discussion based on Noel's motion. Anybody?
What change does it make on the body of that we submitted that he's changing? If that makes sense.
Nothing, it just adds another category.
Can we just read that paragraph maybe?
Here, do you have a copy of it?
Do I have a copy of it?
Yeah, you do. But here, you can.
Oh, it's in my book.
Yeah, here you go, right here. Just adding that language in there. It's to make sure that we have all of the different groups covered.
Right.
Does that answer your question, right?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions, comments, discussion? Kevin?
If we went with the second option, the or option in our packets here, obviously that change would not be needed. Correct?
My take is that, yeah, you need to make that change if you want to, regardless of whether you do the or delete the or, because what it's doing is it's applying to a category of services that have to be either the subject of the interlocal or the plan of services.
Answer your question? Thank you, sir. Any other comments, thoughts? Just on the motion now. Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of Noel's motion, raise your hand. Anybody opposed? 14-0. Okay. Any other comments on the proposal? Ron?
Well, just in listening to what the mayors have said, and of course some of the testimony we received previously, it seems, excuse me, that some of the discussion that we've been undertaking the last several months has gained some traction, because I believe that the city of Cape Coral's done a lot of work in reaching out to some of the fire districts and all. I think the mayor mentioned that working with Greater Pine Island Water may be something that, oh, sorry. Do I have to start over? Sorry. Back when Noah thought it was going to rain, I'll start from there.
El Nino.
I'll cut this short. I believe that there's been a healthy discussion that's happened. The city of Cape Coral has done some admirable things to try to move forward on trying to address some things that I certainly had concerns about, and that's to make sure people talk. So I think that positive step's been taken. I don't know that the other cities have gotten to that level yet, but that'd be encouraging if they did.
Forgetting. I'm on. Eric,
Thank you.
turn your thing on.
Chairman Shaw, I appreciate it. The anecdotes that have been brought up today, and again, I want to also repeat what Ron's saying. I think the discussion's been really good. And I also think that the anecdotes that have been brought up all indicate to me that through the due diligence process of these entities that are expanding, like the Sandoval example is a prime example. Sandoval is well into our city, and they're saying that they built this pump that was over $1 million to do. I mean, that's a significant investment. But to me, the proper method would have been to talk to the city first and say, before we make this capital expenditure, how can we recoup this, or what's the fair amount to recoup this if we're going to be turning it back over? I think a lot of what you've heard is there's been a good, again, and Cape Coral is an example that I'm obviously more familiar with than others, but there's been very good collaboration. No one wants to harm anyone else. But my feeling overall is, and this is just repeating what I've said before, is amending the charter is a significant step in creating burdens. And I'm still on the side of not supporting this going forward to potentially amend the charter because of it. I think that it's proven that through the collaboration of these entities with the respective cities that nearly all of these issues that I've heard about could have been avoided. And I also have concerns about a couple of the comments of our commission about envisioning that, well, we can stop development if we get this through, or at least have a check on it. It's specifically about the property over on Daniels. I want to make clear to everyone that's not what this is about. I think most of us understand that. This is about a very specific issue about the burdens on these entities that are doing these capital expenditures. And I believe firmly that with our statutory framework and with the collaboration of the cities, that can be sufficiently addressed as it stands today. So just want to kind of put on the record that I'm still not going to be supporting going forward with this on the ballot. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Noel, turn your thing on.
Say a couple of things in relation to what Eric just said. I personally haven't heard anybody in here make a statement that this is going to be something to impede development. What I've heard everybody saying is we're trying to create a process that's a win-win for the ratepayers of these utilities as well as the city. And that's all we're trying to do is to put something in front of the voters so the voters can make a decision whether they think it's fair for the parties to sit down and negotiate a fair agreement. And that's all. At the end of the day, no one here is trying to stop annexation. I haven't heard that from anybody. And it's not going to impede any development that I can think of. But what it has to do is the development has to proceed in an orderly manner. It can't be at the backs of the one group of ratepayers over another group. And that's the problem here is when we have, we heard here tonight how there has been a tremendous amount of money spent on infrastructure to serve a certain area. And now, how do we recoup that money for that infrastructure? Are we going to have a process to where they're made whole? Or are we going to have a process where after a very limited period of time, or we make deals based on what the property was appraised before it was annexed or before it ever has any development potential, and then, which is a very little bit of money, and at the end of the day, who's going to make up the shortfall? It's the ratepayers. And that's what I'm concerned about because I am a ratepayer. And I'm going to have to pay more money in the future if we lose all of this infrastructure that we're paying for. And I think that's all we're trying to do is get a fairer process, not to stop anything.
Turn your thing off. Anybody else have any comments? I would echo what Noel just said and have to disagree with you, Eric. We've seen situations like the one at Daniels and Tree Line, like other ones in Cape and Pine Island, other ones in South Lee County that people have brought to our attention where there's been issues. And again, what Noel said is true. We're not trying to impede development and growth. It's just that there needs to be a process that's going to better protect all of the residents, all of the areas within Lee County. Somebody want to make a motion? It should go on when I talk. We need new technology.
Mr. Chair, I have just one question before we get there. Yes, sir. Could you? It's on. So, Mr. President, could you remind us how many votes do we need to put it on the ballot directly, and how many to send it to the Board of County Commissioners? I don't think I've looked at that today.
Defer to Andrea. Turn
You need 9 for the board and 12 to get it to the ballot.
So, to clarify, if we have 10 or 11 votes, what happens?
It still goes to the board.
To the county commission?
Yes.
Okay. If we have 12 or more, then it automatically bypasses the county commission and goes on the ballot to the voters of Lee County.
Correct. So let me clarify something right now. Depending on what the vote is, you are now voting to move forward to a public hearing. You are not moving to put anything on the ballot or send it to the commissioners at this time. You first have to go to a public hearing. However, if you vote that you're not bringing this to a public hearing, we're done. So the vote is only to move forward to a public hearing. Yes, sir. Yes, yes. We're not at the 9-12 stage right now. Okay.
Turn your thing on. Noel. Go ahead, Noel.
Another clarification is, if there are less than 15 members voting, it's a percentage. It's not a hard and fast number at 12.
Well, currently we have 15 members.
But there aren't 15 here today.
Well, no, this is only to move it towards public hearing, so it's just a majority. Majority of those who are here present today.
But on that road,
But on
you'd
that-
be right.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
And before you turn that off, do you want to describe the process of the public hearing and how it works?
So the process of the public hearing, if you all move this forward to go to public hearing, we will have 3 public hearings, and I have the list. I'm pretty sure we provided you with the list of where the public hearings will be held. Thank you. There are 3 public hearings, or 4 public hearings, sorry, that we will go to, and then we will return here for the last meeting in April. And at that meeting, you will determine whether or not it will move forward at all. If it gets less than 9, it does not even go to the board. So it will be over.
All right, so does anybody have questions about what Andrea just shared with us? Do we all understand that? Okay, Richard?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And not so much a question, just I guess a comment and follow up with that clarification. And thank you for that clarification, because I did not understand that. And I don't, probably everyone else did. But so I guess my thoughts, just following up on the conversation we had earlier, is, you know, Eric's comments, I don't entirely disagree with, and that's kind of where I've been sitting in the fence on this, and I know I did a lot of work on this, trying to get the language someplace. I come to a place on this where I still don't entirely know one way or the other how I feel about it. I think on the one hand, I don't think that the language in here, I do understand why the municipalities, why the cities have some objection to this, because it is an obstacle to annexation. It may not be a prohibition, but it's an obstacle. And so I understand that. And from their perspective, I wouldn't expect them to support obstacles to annexation. But I also don't think that anything in the language is really that unreasonable when I read it. And that's really where I come back to, as I look at it and I go, this seems pretty reasonable from a policy perspective to say okay, we have these issues that need to be worked out, and I understand specifically the city of Cape Coral has done a lot of work, and they should be commended for doing that to make sure that this process is followed anyway. And I think that's fantastic. They're not the only city, and there are other situations, and there may be other situations that arise in the future where it needs to be hammered out. And so, I don't, from that standpoint, I don't think it's bad policy at all, simply from the standpoint that these things are entirely reasonable to show how we're going to pay for and how we're going to outline not only where the infrastructure goes and who puts it there, but who pays for it. These are all important things. So with the clarification that, right now we're just going to go to public hearing and hear from other people about this, it's not the final vote. I mean, I would definitely support that because I think that it's definitely worthy of that based on everything we've discussed and the amount of time we've put into that. So that's where I stand.
Thanks, sir. Ron?
This is a question for Andrea. If a motion to forward this to public hearing passes, it's the language that we have before us that goes forward. Is there an opportunity to modify that based on input from the public, or is once a decision is made today, this is the language that stays that way the whole way through?
This is your draft language, and if you go to a public hearing, you hear something different and you want to modify it, you can still modify it right before your last vote.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir. Kevin?
Mr. Chair, thank you. I'd like to echo Richard's comments. I feel like I've been on the fence on this one on both sides of the issue the entire time. And I have to agree, it is a burden, but it's not a heavy burden that the cities can come up with. I'm really drawn to our second option here, and I would support a motion to send that second option to public comment. I think that is the least burdensome on the cities. I think it's the least burdensome on the homeowner. And it really puts the ball in the county's court if there is an issue. So I would make a motion to move forward with that to public comment. No, we don't.
We do not. No, we've already passed his motion. All right, we're past his, and that was just language change. Okay, so right now we're in just discussion, and Kevin, you have the floor.
Yeah, so I'd like to move forward with that second option. I think that is less burdensome. I would also say I have to congratulate the city of Cape Coral on thinking ahead and working with their partners on this issue, and I hope that other cities take their lead as well.
We have a motion, we have a second discussion. Eric?
Question for the county attorney on that option, which was brought forward. Does the county today have the ability to file an action in court anyway?
Yes.
So this doesn't really add anything to the county's.
I mean, we have,
I know it's happened before.
yeah, I was just going to say, it's happened before, so.
So I guess maybe that's kind of like my thought on that is, it really doesn't, to me, add to what we already have today with the rights of the county. That's my concern, maybe I'm mistaken.
I understood it that the homeowner and the city must file paperwork explaining how the services they are going to receive. And I feel like that is a fine solution to the issue that we're dealing with here.
I think he's talking about number two.
Well, the second option.
Number two, but yeah, he's talking about that. Yeah.
The or.
The or is number.
Okay.
I just need explanation because
goes to the or, then the municipality does all the work, it's all ready to go, and the county, the only way we can disapprove it is by court. So I mean, that, to me, that kind of puts a burden on the county now, because we have to sue them to end it instead of working with them up front and saying, okay, our staffs have to approve it, and then the decision's made. I mean, I don't like the or, but I mean, whatever the group decides, I'd be willing to agree with, but.
Okay. Lisa?
I agree with Keith, but I would suggest that we make a motion to move forward with public hearing, and then after we hear from the public, then we hammer out the final language, would be my suggestion.
Your suggestion is go to public hearing for the whole thing, or just the motion?
The entire thing as it stands today, and then we can hammer out any
But
final
your suggestion is
details.
different than the motion.
It is. Thank you.
Maribel?
I agree with Lisa.
I'm happy to amend my motion.
Sir?
I would amend my motion to state that we take both options to public hearings.
I'll amend my second.
So the new motion now is, with a second, that we move forward with what we have proposed with the minor language change that Noel made earlier today. Further discussion? Carl? Wait a minute.
You should know by now after having everybody else corrected. For the or portion of the language that's in here, number 2, there's the requirement that the governing body of the municipality may approve the annexation if the owner or owners of the real property have provided competent substantial evidence in the plan of services to demonstrate the delivery of the fiscal responsibility for services to the property. That gets provided to the municipality, correct? And just that municipality, there's not a copy that goes to Lee County?
It says municipality and the county. Plan of service with the municipality and the county.
Okay.
Sorry.
Okay, I missed that. I was going to make the suggestion if it goes just to the municipality to give the county a crack at it as well.
But it does
Also
include,
one
it
side,
does
but-
include both.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Further comments? All those in favor of Kevin's motion to pass the entire thing along to public hearing, raise your hands. All those opposed? 12-2. So, Eric and Doug, you got it? Okay, cool. Anybody else have anything further? I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is that fast enough?
Pretty good.
Thank you, guys. Finish the pizza before you go.